Hello everybody and welcome to another snapshot tutorial video. This is Peter Tusik from Humanware and I am going to be demonstrating the entirely rebuilt, new and improved KeyFiles application, which now will give you access to cloud storage. By default, depending on the accounts you have added to your device, you will have access to OneDrive, you will have access to Google Drive, and you will have access to Dropbox. Again, we know that you can still certainly use your thumb drive or your SD card, but a lot of today's needs are based in the cloud, and we wanted to rebuild KeyFiles and make it very easy for the accessing of information and being able to get things easier, kind of move things between the cloud. There are some limitations based on the various services, so we're kind of not able to control what we can and can't do with OneDrive or with Dropbox, for instance. When it comes to copying or deleting, many things are accessible though, and it's very easy to work with KeyFiles to move files around. This video though is only going to be about navigation. We're not going to be looking at copying, we're not going to be looking at moving or folder management or saving at this point. We're simply looking at the new redesigned KeyFiles application. And if you want to copy and move files and folders and organize things, you certainly want to look at other snapshot tutorial videos that I have created. This is all about the new KeyFiles. I am on the main menu. I'm going to press the letter F to jump to the File Manager or KeyFiles application.
File Manager, KeyFiles.
And at this point, I'm going to press Enter to open this up and we'll be placed in our new KeyFiles app.
KeyFiles.
Now, I'm in my Documents folder, and it really doesn't matter where you are because we're going to look at this from kind of step one or from the top level, which is our drive selection, which we've always had. All of your commands will be very standard. There are a couple of new commands, which we'll talk about, but you're able to get to drive selection as you always have been able to by pressing D as in drive, D with space. I'm going to press D with space here, come up to drive selection, and show you what we have.
Drive selection.
Now, when we press drive selection, or D with space to get to drive selection, we are placed in our list of available drives. And previously you had choices like SD card or USB or storage. And you certainly still have those, but there are some differences now that we're going to look at. I can use first letter navigation here, but I'm just going to press my next thumb key and look at these options.
Documents.
So the very first piece in drive selection is now documents. This is very similar to kind of how a computer works in that our documents is at our top level. If you want to, you can now just create all your folders inside documents and it'll be a lot easier to get to them. Certainly you could still create them on your storage drive if you want. Documents folder is still inside your storage drive, but this might make it easier to organize things, and it's just a quicker way to go into documents if you want to. We'll look at folder management. We'll look at folder management in a different video. I'm going to press my space bar.
Downloads.
Downloads. Again, you could press your next thumb key to move down this. Downloads is also now pinned to drive selection. So documents and downloads will appear here. So if you download an attachment or a file off the internet, this is where it will go. You no longer have to go into storage and then locate downloads. These are going to be located up at this drive selection level. So as soon as you press D with space, you can use D to move through documents or downloads. You could press Enter to open one of those up. I'm going to press my next thumb key because we have a new option here,
Recent,
which is Recent. Now, Recent is going to be any recent files you worked with. This would be anything that was, brought into recently. Maybe you opened a file and you were working with certain files. So this will list your recent documents. I'm unsure as to exactly how many are listed here, but I can get that info for anybody who's curious. If you reach out or if we have an opportunity, we can fill this in. But you are able to access your recent, sort of most recent documents here. Here's where the good stuff starts. So again, this is very similar. If we had a USB drive or SD card, it would show up in this list as well. I don't have anything connected at the moment, but if I press my next thumb key,
storage,
I'll see storage.
27.46 gigabytes free.
And it now shows you how much storage space is free on your key drives. So, based on what you have in storage, I have 27.46 gigabytes free. This is my storage drive. We'll go in here in a moment where I have all of my folders. And again, now you might just want to put all of your folders in the documents folder. But I'm going to press my next thumb key again and look at something brand new.
Drive, humanware10@gmail.com.
Now this is a Google Drive account. and it's showing up right here in KeyFiles. This is a sample Google Drive that I use for a lot of my Humanware demonstrations. This is again, you can have several Google Drives active, but we're seeing that we can access Google Drive directly through KeyFiles. We'll get in here in a moment. I also have a personal Google Drive here.
Drive to check at
Here's
Gmail.
my personal Google Drive. I'm going to press my spacebar or next thumb key again.
Dropbox to check at
Here's my Dropbox account. Again, if you have these accounts added to your device, so if you've downloaded the third-party apps and logged in, these will show up. Or if you've gone into settings, users and accounts, add account, and you've added Dropbox, or you've added Google, or you've added OneDrive, they will show up here. I'm going to press space. You'll see my OneDrive account as well.
OneDrive to check at gmail.com.
So again, we have now this addition of these cloud drives in KeyFiles, and let's take a look at them. But you are able to move things around, save files directly to various drives, and upload and share and do different things directly from the KeyFiles app. So it's a great advantage for those of you who are working with a lot of cloud storage or shared files and folders. I am going to come into Drive. So I'm going to come up here to my Google Drive.
Drive to check at gmail.com.
This is my Google Drive. I'm going to press enter and let's see what we get.
My Drive folder.
So when we open our Google Drive, and for those of you who use Drive, you're familiar with the way that this is partitioned, if you will. Google sets it up into a couple of sections. When we pressed enter and opened this drive, we see My Drive. My Drive is where anything you own is stored. So when you create files in the cloud, primarily if you're the owner, if you own those files, they live in My Drive. And all of your Google Drives will look different, but this partition will be the same. So you all have My Drive. If I press my next thumb key,
Shared with me.
you have Shared
folder.
with me. Shared with me is where things go when they are shared with you. So if I have a teacher or a friend who shares a folder with me or who shares a document with me, it's not going to live in My Drive. I could certainly move it there if I wanted to, but it's going to live in Shared with me. So anything that has been created and shared with me via Google is going to live in Shared with me. So we can access that. We also have another section here called Starred.
Folder.
Starred is S-T-A-R-R-E-D. Starred, when you star something, is kind of when you're flagging things. I don't use this too much, but it is here. But we're going to have a look at the My Drive folder here and see kind of how this is set up. Again, you have these sections, so you're not only able to see My Drive. You can see Shared with me, and you're also seeing My Drive here and Starred. So I'm going to come up and open My Drive. Again, we're in my personal Google Drive.
My Drive
Press enter
folder.
and open this up.
List app files.
Now,
folder.
I have a lot of folders on My Drive, and yours will look very different because you will have your own folders. My first one here is called APK files. These are applications that sometimes are in development at Humanware, various things we test. I have created various folders, and you can set your drive up any way you would like. Mine will definitely look 100% different from yours, but you can use first letter navigation here. So I have a folder called Touch How-To Guides, I believe, or Touch Agendas. I have various folders and files organized here based on workshops that I do and demonstrations. I'm going to press the letter T.
Touch agendas.
So
folder.
these would be workshop agendas that I tend to put together when I'm doing a workshop in person. I'm going to press my spacebar again.
Touch How-To Guides.
Here's our Touch
folder.
How-To Guides. This is where I save a lot of the how-tos that I kind of create or have done over the years just in case I need them again or I want to edit them or manipulate them in some way. They're right here in the cloud. I'm going to press enter. We're going to open this up.
No items. $.
Now,
using
it says
the
no
touch as a
items, but it will immediately populate with all of the items that are here. So it did take a second to fill in. All of my files are here. The first one is about using the BrailleNote Touch as a Braille display.
BNT Snapshot 5 downloading and reading Bookshare.docs.
So here's one on downloading and reading Bookshare books and so on. So you can use first letter navigation in here. Again, all of these files are saved in the cloud. There is a context menu. So if you want to move things or whatnot, and we'll get to that in a future video, you can press M with space and look at your context menu. You also will have the ability to share or to rename, to zip, to unzip. All of these various things can now be done in this KeyFiles app, but we're more focused on navigation here. If I want to return to the previous level, so I'm thinking, well, where am I right now? Maybe I want to go up a level. Let's first look at where we are. If I press 156 or WH, for those of you who are familiar with contracted English Braille, if I press 156 with space,
drop down list, Touch How-To Guides.
I will see the name of my folder in a drop down list. So it says drop down list, meaning I can look at my breadcrumbs, which we'll do in a moment, and it says Touch How-To Guides. That is the folder I'm currently in. If I want to look at, well, what does that mean? What drive am I in, or what folder am I in, or where am I? If I press enter on this, I will get a list of where I am. So I'm going to press enter.
Pop-up window. Drive.
And I see that I'm in Drive. I press my spacebar.
My Drive.
I'm in My Drive.
Touch how-to
and then I'm in Touch How-To Guides. So meaning Google Drive, then My Drive, then Touch How-To Guide. So it's a way to see your list of sort of your path, but in a far simpler way. We used to show something slash something slash something slash, and that was very confusing and didn't really help us understand where we were. So now you can use this drop-down list to find out where you are, and we'll look at this in other drives as well. So you'll see how it differs. But I am in Drive, I'm in My Drive, and I'm in the Touch How-To Guides folder. I'm going to press space with E to get out of this pop-up window here.
KeyFiles.
Now,
drop-down list.
I'm back in my Touch How-To folder. If I want to just move up one level, so move just up to My Drive, I can press space with E or my triangle. Again, space with E as in exit, or my triangle button moves me up one level. And we'll be back into My Drive.
List. Classroom.
Now
Folder.
I'm back in My Drive. You can certainly use first letter navigation. If I press my triangle or space with E again, I'd move up into the top of my Google Drive where I would see My Drive and Shared with Me and Starred. Or remember, if I want to go all the way to the top, press D as in Drive, D with space.
Drive selection.
All right, let's look at our storage folder. So again, you have documents here, you have downloads. You certainly still have storage. That's where your internal storage is located, and you have a lot of default folders. A little bit different now. There are a couple of more default folders added. I'm going to press S for storage. Again, I'm on drive selection, pressing the letter S.
Storage.
And I'm going to
27.46 gigabytes free.
At this point, press enter and open my storage folder or drive.
Notes.
All right. There are some new, depending on the applications you have. This used to start with alarms folder, and then you would go down and see all of your folders in alphabetical order. You can sort these and do different things. The first note here, piece here for me is G-Notes, because I have an app called G-Notes. So there may be some .this and .that folders. These are system folders that will be present in your storage drive. Again, you don't really have to open your storage drive anymore, because what I would recommend you do is create folders inside your documents folder so that you're not even coming in here. You can just create them in your documents folder and get to that right from drive selection. May be a lot easier than creating them in storage. But again, up to you. You can do whatever. There's no right or wrong answer and kind of way of doing this, but you certainly will be able to make that happen. I'm going to come into my science folder that I have here. So I'm going to press the letter S.
Science.
Here's
Folder.
my science folder. I'm going to press enter.
Science test December 17th.
Now, I have a
Docs.
science test from December 17th, although you'll see the file info here. It was actually saved on March 19th of 2020, and it's 7.5 kilobytes. You'll be able to see this information directly in the file manager now. You don't need to press space with I to pull up file info. Again, if we want to know where we are, if I press that space with 156 to go to the Where Am I dropdown,
Drop-down list. Science.
it says I'm in science. And I think, well, that's nice, but where is science? Remember, when I was in Drive, it said I was in the how-to thing, and I pressed 156 with space, and it said Drive, My Drive, and then Touch How-To Guides. If I press enter here on the science dropdown,
Pop-up window. Storage.
it's going to show me the path. So the first thing it says is storage, because I'm not in a cloud service. I'm in storage. I'm going to press space.
Science.
And then science. So I'm in storage, science, meaning storage drive, science. So again, this is a little bit different to look at your file path. When you do that space with WH, it brings you to the dropdown. You can activate that dropdown and figure out what drive you're in and subsequently what folder you're in. Okay, I'm going to press space with E to get out of here.
KeyFiles.
Look at a couple of the other cloud drives. I'm going to press space with D to come up to drive selection.
Drive selection.
And let's look at my Dropbox. Again, you may not have a Dropbox account here if you have not added one to your device. If you have, you will see your Dropbox as you have set it up. I'm going to press D.
Documents.
A couple of
Download
times.
Drive. Dropbox. Touch add.
This is my Dropbox. I'm going to press enter.
List. Camera uploads.
And Dropbox
Folder.
does have some pre-designated folders. Again, yours will not look like mine depending on how you have Dropbox configured. Some of these things take some legwork, right? You might have a resumes folder or a PowerPoints folder or whatever it may be. It will never look the same. But you certainly have access to your personal Dropbox. I'm going to press my space bar and come down. I have a camera uploads folder,
Documents,
a documents folder,
Humanware
folder with various pieces. Again, sometimes I put things in Dropbox or Drive, depending on what it is I'm doing. I think many of us use multiple cloud services, depending on the environment we're in or what we find easiest. So I have a Humanware folder,
Math,
I have a math folder, and so on.
Photos folder,
Photos folder, and others. Let's come into the math folder here.
Math
and I don't
folder,
think there's anything in here,
list.
but nope, there isn't. So there's nothing in my math folder. But again, if I do that WH, so 156 with space, I'll see where am I?
Drop down list, math.
And it just says math. And I think, all right, math, cool. Well, where am I? I press enter.
Pop-up window, Dropbox.
And then it says Dropbox.
Math.
And then math when I press my next thumb key. So I know I'm in Dropbox in the math folder within Dropbox. Again, this will help you tremendously because there are so many more drives now, depending on what you have active or accounts and various things. You're going to be able to know where you are. Press my triangle and leave this. Demonstrate
KeyFiles.
one other piece here.
Drop
I'm going
down list.
to come back
math.
up to drive selection, so space with D.
Drive selection.
Again, we're not going to look at OneDrive. It's very similar, just depending on how your OneDrive is set up. You can access those OneDrive pieces. Again, we'll look at creating and sharing content in another video. What I do want to show you, though, is how do you find something? So a lot of times we say, well, I put this file in Drive. I don't know. It's in my Drive. I don't know what folder it's in, or I'm just not sure where it is. You can search within your drives. You will not be able to search from this drive selection area. We can't do a global search across all drives. If I press space with F here, nothing happens. It just boings at me, right? If boings is an action verb. What I want to do, though, is I want to open the drive I want to look through. So I'm going to open up Drive, my Google Drive. So I'm going to press D until I get to my Drive account I want.
Drive, Tuchik@gmail.com. My Drive.
And then again, I need to choose what drive do I want to look in here, what folder. I can't do a space with F necessarily from here.
Search.
But when I do,
Edit box.
I'm going to redo that because apparently you can.
Search. Edit box. Drive selection. Documents. KeyFiles. Drive selection. Documents. Downloads. Drive. Humanware 10 Drive. Tuchik@.
So I'm going to press enter here to actually open the drive I want to search in.
My Drive.
And in this case, it's Google Drive. So now I can search my entire Google Drive for a file, right, that I might be looking for. Or I could open one of these folders, either my drive or shared with me, and search for a file. I'm going to press space with F to show you how you can search within Google Drive. So I'm going to press space with F as in find, space with 1, 2, 4.
Search.
We get a search box.
Edit box.
And I'm going to type in the word mocking. I'm looking for some Mockingbird file, MOCKING.
K.346.
And I'm going to press enter.
My Drive. To Kill a Mockingbird presentation folder.
And we'll get the results in a list. So I have To Kill a Mockingbird presentation folder here.
Bottom.
And so on. Right? So we're going to see any of our search results of our files that will match, or folders, depending on what we have. Again, space with F can be very useful if you're unsure as to where something is. You can definitely pull that up and actually search for files. I'm going to press space with E to get out of here.
Drive. My Drive. Folder.
And again, when we want to get more options, and we'll be looking at this in future videos, remember your context menu is your best friend. It's going to help you with copying or moving, which has changed with this new version of KeyFiles due to us changing really kind of how all of this works. There will be some new commands, especially when you want to share or compress or unzip files, and that will be something I'll be covering in other videos. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this is super helpful, and we'll be doing lots more of these snapshot tutorial videos. This has been a huge Keysoft update that has taken a lot of time, a lot of work on the back end, a lot of testing on our end as the testers and sort of Braille users here at Humanware, and then a lot of external beta testing as well. So we're really appreciative and glad that everyone's taken part in testing, and we're so glad to have this out for all of you to use, because the BrailleNote Touch Plus will continue to improve and will continue to provide more productivity for you as you move forward. Thank you, friends. Hope everyone has an awesome day.